Yo, what's good? My name's Corey, your friendly neighborhood massage technician. And today I'm going to go over a self-massage technique that you can use for your abdominals, more specifically addressing your digestive system with a focus on your large intestine or colon, which runs from the end of the small intestine to the anus. And this particular massage technique is to help encourage the regular bowel movements of the body and to also optimize your digestive health, right? So with this video, I'm going to go over the nomenclature, the names of the body parts we'll be working with the colon, give you a general rundown of the digestive system operation up into the colon. I'm going to, after that, go through the massage technique, and then after that, go ahead and relay some contraindications or things that you may need to be aware of if you are to use these techniques or not, depending on, if you have certain conditions. Of course, in all respects, make sure that you check in with your healthcare provider to ensure that these techniques are okay for you to use. And with that, let's go. So, to kick this off, I'm going to start with the digestive process and just to give a general understanding of the way that this is running. So, food goes into the mouth, gets chewed up by the teeth, goes down the esophagus, gets to the stomach. And the stomach is breaking down the food by, pouring in acids and churning up the food, turning it into a more liquefied state and siphoning out the nutrients that it can into the body. From the stomach, it goes down into small intestine, and the small intestine is also doing the same thing. It's just breaking down the food, liquefying it as much as it can, and siphoning out the nutrients from what you just ate. I believe that there aren't acids being poured in, but the general process of siphoning out the nutrients and churning the food to make sure it's liquefied is going on in the small intestine as it turns and turns and turns through that long road of the small intestine, right? So then we get to the large intestine, or what is medically called the colon, right? And the connection from the small intestine to the colon, the first section that it runs into on the right side, down here by the hip, is called the cecum, right? It's this large pouch that is kind of the holding house for the stool as it's going into the large intestine from the small intestine, right? And the cecum is holding this fluid, if you will, at this particular state until there's enough to, encourage or initiate the process for the stool's ascension, right? Because from here, on the right side, here down here by the hip, once it gets that signal, it releases the stool into the ascending colon on the right side. It's here, like at the bottom part of the hip, and moves up to around the lower part of the rib. It's ascending up the colon, hence the name ascending colon, right? So as it's moving up, the colon is moving the fluid through, or the stool fluid through, and it's siphoning out the liquids, because most of the nutrients has already been siphoned out by the stomach and the small intestine. So here they're just getting rid of the liquids and putting that back into the body, along with another musculature that's helping out with this process called the tenii coli, which is Latin for thin band, colon. So tenii coli means thin band or ribbon colon, if you will. So it's a muscle on the outside of the colon that sits in the middle of it, which looks like a thin band, hence the name. So this muscle, along with the inner muscles of the colon, are moving this fluid along and extracting the liquids as much as it can through the process. There's also within the colon bacteria and flora that's within the colon that's also breaking it down to a more solidified state. So again, it goes from the cecum. From the cecum, it gets released into the ascending colon. From the ascending colon, it goes across the body from right to left, across the body to the transverse colon, in the transverse colon, if you will. And the same process that is going on from the ascending colon is continuing in the transverse colon. And it's moving the stool along, it's taking out the liquids, the bacteria and the flora are getting what they need from this food that you just ate, and it's pushing it along, right? So now by the time it gets to this side of the body, on the left side, the stool has been extracted from a lot of its liquids, right? So now it begins to resemble that which you would normally see in the regular bowel movement. It's a solid state stool, if you will, fecal matter that's getting to this side of the body on the left side. And once it gets over here, it begins to descend the body, hence the name, the descending colon. So from here again, the stool is somewhat solidified. It's going through the process of getting ready to be released. So it goes down the descending colon on the left side, pretty much getting there to the top of the hip, and then it makes another detour to the right through the sigmoid colon, which is doing the same thing, just moving the stool along to its final destination, where it gets to the rectum, which is kind of another holding place for the stool, much like the cecum was, and holding the stool in the place of the rectum until there's enough to justify, or if you will, or initiate the process to release it down deeper into the rectum and towards the end of the rectum, where they have those rings at the bottom of the rectum, which you call the sphincter, on the inside and the outside of the rectum. And once it gets into that area, the involuntary pressure and the external voluntary pressure from yourself, as you sit down on the toilet, get ready to release, if you will, relaxes the sphincter and releases the stool. And voila, we have went through the digestive system. Yes? Yes. All right. So with that, just some things to relate. Just a quick thought. In this whole process with the colon here, takes about 24 to 48 hours to get through this system. And there are different conditions that are related to the timing of when it gets through this system. Say the stool that is being siphoned, if you will, in the colon is taking too long to get through this process, right? And the fluids get siphoned out too much to where the stool dries out before it gets to the section over here, or before it gets to its final destination. If it gets dried out in the process, it makes it very difficult for that stool to continue to pass through the colon. Hence, we get what would be called constipation. Constipation is the stool, if you will, is dried out to a point where it's very difficult to pass through the colon, right? Which, in essence, a good way to help with that is to drink water, to hydrate and moisturize the colon to help push things through, if not using the laxative. On the other end of that, what laxatives do for the most part, if in the process of going through this colon, it's faster than 24 hours and it moves straight through and the colon doesn't have enough time to extract the fluids, it becomes what is called diarrhea, right? And that's the process of which the colon did not have enough time to siphon out the fluids to make sure that it's in a solid state before it's released from your body. So diarrhea moves too fast. Constipation moves too slow. In the process of this self-massage technique, we're trying to encourage the body to move this stool through your colon just right? Hitting that mark where it and it can be released, solidified, if you will, and and all be well. Right? So that's the general process of the digestive system, broken down in a very simplified way. So onward with the technique. So with this, of course, I am doing this technique while standing, but for this technique, the best position to be in would be with your knees in a 90-degree angle of most sorts, head laying on the ground so that your abdominal wall is relaxed. It's a lot easier to engage the colon with a relaxed stomach. If you're doing this while you're standing, the abdominal wall is somewhat active, and to penetrate that abdominal wall is very difficult. So it's good to do this while laying on the ground, either maybe getting out of the bed in the morning or getting ready for bed at night. It's a very prime time that you can use this particular technique. So with this technique, we are going to start with the lower area of the body that's closer to around the rectum and the sigmoid colon here. We're going to be using circular motions for this particular massage, and we're pretty much going to be going backwards from our colon to help encourage the activity of the colon, or to encourage the right movement of getting the stool to its final destination. So here, where our hips are, maybe 2 inches below the belly button, I'm going to start here, clockwise fashion, clockwise, if you will, clockwise, there you go, clockwise fashion, here at the lower part of the rectum, and we're going to do circles in this particular area here. We're going to give ourselves 10 circles in this general area, yes? Let's say about 5 to 10 would be a good number. So from here, we're going to move to our left side, or descending colon here, and we're going to go in the I shape, right? Going straight down the descending colon and doing the same thing clockwise fashion in these circles, and we're going to move down the descending colon in this I shape. And we're going to do this about 5 to 10 times, just allowing that motion to encourage the descension of the stool in the body. Yes? All right. So when we get done with that, we're going to move over here to the right side, and we're going to move in an L, right? An L from the transverse, which is at the lower part of the rib on the right side, to the lower part of the rib on the left side, and then we're going to descend down to the hip. Yes? So again, clockwise fashion, we're going to do our circles and going across the body and down the body. Yes? Across, and down. Let me do this one more time. Across the body as you're laying down on the floor, and we're going down, descending the colon. Yes? Then for our final movement, we're going to go I'm still here. We're going to go in a U shape, going up, across, and down. So up in a clockwise fashion, up, across, and down, and up, across, and down in our circular fashion. Same, up, across, and down. Okay? And then we're going to end back where we started at the rectum here, and just give ourselves those 5 to 10 circles at a lower part of our body here at the rectum, and to help encourage that movement of the body. It's actually pretty taxing on your shoulders to do this little exercise. So if your arms get tired in the process of moving the motion, and take your time, take a couple breaths, and come back to it, right? But in essence, that is the self-massage technique. We're gonna start from the center and get our circles in, go to the descending I and move our way down, go to the right side and make our L here, and go back to our right side, move up, across, and down to make our U. And then we're going to come back to the center, and we're going to give our final circles before we, go about our business. This particular massage is definitely good before you have your first regular bowel movement. So if that's in the morning, very prime time, if you're waking up in the morning in your bed, sit your knees up and go through this little process here. You can do this once or twice a day. So if you're a person like myself, you can do it at night before you go to bed and get yourself one session when you wake up in the morning, and do the same thing and do another session, and then go about your business. Yes? So another thing in regards to contraindications, the things that may keep you from doing this type of exercise, if you have any spinal injuries, that may be a cause for concern. There's ulcers. If you have ulcers in, say, the stomach or the small intestine or the large intestine in general, is contraindicated. You shouldn't be working with this particular technique. Also, if you have, like, say, undiagnosed stomach pains, it's best to get that checked out to see what's going on there before you address this area of the body. And in general, those are pretty much the things that you should be aware of, especially if you have any internal bleeding of any kind. You should still steer clear of this particular exercise until there's healing takes place and it's restored, and of course you get the okay from your healthcare provider. So with that, this is the self-massage for your digestive system. I've been working with this for a couple of days, and it does make a difference. It really does make a difference. It feels like, at the end of the day, like I clean myself out, using this particular process. Of course, consistency is key. It may work good for one day, but, keeping this process and making sure that your intestinal system or your colon gets regular attention and touch is helpful to encourage regular bowel movements and a healthy digestive system, and ensuring that everything passes through your body. So with that, I thank you all for listening. I'll be coming back with some more tips and tricks for your self-massage that can help you optimize your best self. Yes? So with that, I thank you all for listening, and be well.